Ms. Powell, were you ever around when anyone, told Donald Trump that he had lost the election?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
Pat Cipollone, Eric Hirschman, Derek Lyons all thought he'd lost.
Was that in the December 18th meeting?
Yes.
What was President Trump's reaction when, I guess, this cadre of advisors would say you lost?
It was like, well, they would say that and then they'd walk out and he'd go, see, this is what I deal with all the time.
Former Trump attorney Sidney Powell is fulfilling her part of the plea deal to squeal on the former president. And some of the beans that she's spilling about how many people told Trump that he did indeed lose are eerily similar to the evidence that the January 6th committee revealed last summer.
Judd Deere was a White House deputy press secretary. This was his testimony about what he told President Trump.
I told him that my personal viewpoint was that the Electoral College had met, which is the system that our country is set under to elect a president and vice president. And I believed at that point that the means for him to pursue litigation was probably closed.
And you recall what his response, if any, was?
He disagreed.
I said, how long is he going to carry on with this stolen election stuff? Where's this going to go? And by that time, Meadows had caught up with me. He said, look, I think that he's becoming more realistic and knows that there's a limit to how far he can take this. And then Jared said, yeah, we're working on this. We're working on it.
Now we've got January 6th committee testimony that Trump and the rest of the Republicans Party dismisses some political theater. And now we've got Powell saying the same thing about Trump's full knowledge that he had lost the election before carrying out that violence on the 6th. So naturally, according to the MAGA playbook, Sidney Powell was only a coffee runner, a disgruntled employee that's seeking revenge with these lies. But if that's the case, why would he appoint her special counsel?
He was specifically willing to appoint me special counsel. In fact, he looked over at Cipollone 3 different times and said, do I have the authority to name her special counsel? And Cipollone said, yes, you do. And then somebody said, well, she doesn't have a security clearance. So he looked at Cipollone and he said, do I have the authority to give her a security clearance? And Cipollone said, yes, you do. And then about the 3rd time we went through that scenario, Cipollone, I think, said, you can name her anything you want, Mr. President, and nobody's going to pay a bit of attention to it.
What was President Trump's sense of what you would do as special counsel?
I guess he assumed, and I would have thought that I would have looked at putting into effect a provision of 13848 that would have allowed the machines to be secured in 4 or 5 states.
How did you choose which states that you would target?
How would I have chosen that? By the ones where there were the most statistical anomalies.
These leaked videos continue to tie the previously covert scheme together for people that refuse to believe the rest of the mountain of evidence that Plan A was to fix the election in his favor, but there just weren't enough yes men to pull it off and keep their mouths shut. But then again, considering the ragtag group that they threw together, I'm not sure how Trump thought this would work in the first place. Maybe that's why Jenna Ellis, another former cohort that's now taking part in her own plea deal to squeal, revealed another effort that illustrates just why he always envies these dictatorial figures.
At the time period where they were going to start to discuss, what was Dan Scavino's role?
At the time, I believe his title was social media director for the White House. It became deputy chief of staff at the time that the conversation in question took place.
Okay, and when was that?
The conversation was around December 19th of 2020 at the White House Christmas party. And I emphasized him. I thought that the claims and the ability to challenge the election results was essentially over, because he said to me in a kind of excited tone, well, we don't care and we're not going to leave. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, the boss, meaning President Trump, and everyone understood the boss, that's what we all called him. He said the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. We are just going to stay in power. And I said to him, well, it doesn't quite work that way, you realize. And he said, we don't care.